to thank you for being here, making this a priority for you this afternoon. I have a hunch that you might be here for some of the same reasons I am here. Yes, there will be some personal benefit from this, but there's others that I hope to take this information to, along with my vote of confidence, a little bit of love, and some great information that we will hear today in our summit. I'd like to turn the time over now to Ms. Shavery to introduce Camlin.
Hello, it's good to be with everyone here. My name is Anna. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the home director at Encircle Provo. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Camlin. Camlin's love for people translated into studying film and media arts. Being raised in a home of arts and social work, Camlin loves the transformation that happens through relationships, art, and learning. For 3 years, Camlin has taught film, race and culture, and other electives at Walden School of Liberal Arts. She simultaneously works at Encircle Provo as Community Outreach Coordinator, where she continues to educate and strengthen relationships that help LGBTQ+ individuals and their families thrive. Camlin currently lives in Provo, though she has roots from a number of places. I have the pleasure to work with Camlin every day at Encircle, and I am very excited to be with you all here today and learn from her. So let me turn the time over to her right now.
Okay, which side do I want to stand on? This side. Okay. Hello and welcome. I want to thank you for choosing to be here at this time. I'd love to know a little bit of who we have in the room for a minute. Do we have some educators in the room? Some educators, okay. Healthcare workers, beautiful. Business people. I might be missing some awesome students. I hope I'm not. Who else? Anyone else want to shout out where they're from? Parents, yay! Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you. And online friends, I'm glad that you are here too. This is a topic that means quite a lot to me. And as you know, so our topic today is the role of diversity and inclusion in mental health. And the lens is what the LGBT community can teach us about these things. But as I present this information looking through the lens of this community, I'd love for you to please keep in mind whatever diverse population you are working with. That I feel like a lot of the principles and things that the LGBTQ community highlights can directly be translated and applied to all different kinds of diverse groups. So I'll start with sharing what Encircle's mission statement is. Our mission statement is to bring the family and the community together to enable LGBTQ+ youth to thrive. And our slogan that you'll see on some of our t-shirts is no sides, only love. And I want to emphasize the thrive portion of our mission statement. It's not just survive, it's not get by, it's not breathe. We really want to emphasize the thriving part of life, the whole integrated wellness of living, and to kind of celebrate that. So I'll come back to this. I actually want to start with Encircle's birth, and then we'll kind of swing back to a little bit of my journey here. So Encircle kind of started years and years ago with this individual named John Williams. John Williams is an example of someone who was able to thrive. John came out as gay to his family over 50 years ago, right, when the climate was even more tense than it can be now. And thankfully, even then, John Williams' family, though they were religious and grew up in conservative communities, they were able to respond with love and with acceptance. And they let John be who he was. And so John was able to be John and not focus on shame or other aspects that could have interrupted his journey. And so thankfully, John was able to become a very successful, thriving businessman in Salt Lake City. He opened about 10 restaurants between 1980s and 90s in Salt Lake, including the New Yorker, if you're familiar with the New Yorker, the Oyster Bar, Market Street Grill, This man had beautiful taste and he loved taking old buildings and giving them a new life and new purpose and making spaces of gathering, and really put a lot of influence into Salt Lake's landscape. But even in his personal private life, John's home was a refuge for a lot of family and friends, LGBTQ and not. And Stephanie Larson, the CEO and founder of Encircle, Stephanie married into this family. John Williams is her husband's uncle, and Stephanie herself will tell you how she studied law at BYU and was defending the traditional family in Washington, D.C., and she had her own ideas about the LGBTQ community. And thankfully, she was able to develop a relationship with John over a handful of years and loved him. And not only loved him, but also saw that this is a person who embodied all of her beliefs about love and care. And so she shifted a lot of her perceptions and beliefs about the community and opened up her heart. And so together, she and John responded with a lot of concern about a lot of what Dr. Rappaport shared, the scary numbers about suicide. And I'll share a couple of how it specifically affects the LGBTQ community as well. So together they decided, let's create a safe space and make sure that we can keep these beautiful souls here with us. So that is the birth of Encircle. This is the first Encircle Provo. Come say hi. This is Encircle Salt Lake City. And then this is Encircle St. George. We build these beautiful homes inspired by John Williams' life. And we are expanding to Heber and to Ogden. And we're going to push into Idaho and Las Vegas and Nevada after that, and Arizona as well. And I'm just so excited. It's going to be really cool. And I also want to say, what's beautiful is that these homes, wherever they pop up, it's because the community is inviting it there. And that means a lot to me, being someone who was born in this. I was born in Provo, Utah, and I might have my own ideas about the community here in Utah and brace myself for a different reaction. But I promise you, everywhere where there is an Encircle home, the community has supported it and built it up with us, and I'm so grateful for that. So going back a little bit, I do want to share just a little bit of my journey into Encircle, because I kind of reinforce a lot of things that John teaches us and that the LGBTQ community teaches us. I have a little bit of experience with situational anxiety. I don't have experience with an illness that might be more prevalent or chemical or more difficult to live with. So my anxiety is very situational, and it got really high when I was a senior in college, extremely high. And I was going through the motions, but I was absolutely shutting down. I had a therapist, and that would help in the moment, but it wouldn't help lift the weight when I was outside of the session, right? And I really didn't know if I would make it to graduation. I was flip-flopping between dropping out or just sticking it through. And this was really hard for my parents to watch. They seemed pretty helpless to fix it because nothing was changing for months and months and months. And finally, one day, my dad was checking in with me again, because he thankfully tried to check in, and asked how things were going, and nothing had really changed. And he just said to me, Camlin, I don't really care if you graduate. That's not what's important. I just don't want you to fall apart and lose your beautiful mind. And I cannot tell you what that did to me as a child. And I was an adult, but at this time, I really needed to hear that from him. And that is actually what shifted the weight for me. I didn't know that I needed to hear that what my parents were afraid of was the same thing I was afraid of, which was losing myself, which was falling apart, and that they actually saw my mind as beautiful as is before graduation. They weren't concerned with me graduating so that I could make the family proud or so that I could complete X and Y and all of these things. I didn't realize that I was functioning from a place of trying to please my parents with a falsely prioritized expectation. And so I'm really grateful he said that to me, and that shifted a lot of things in my life. And I graduated. Here I am. And I am now working at Encircle, but I didn't get here also just from seeing a job posting. I actually, years before, was sitting in my own congregation one Sunday, and I had a personal recognition that all of the people that I was spending my intimate time with, all of my social circles, were people of the same faith, were people of the same race, were people of the same sexuality and orientation, which is beautiful and fine. Nothing is wrong with that, but it wasn't authentic to me because I do value diversity, and yet I was subconsciously living a segregated lifestyle. I had just settled into it, and it was completely understandable, but I realized, I need to expand my circles. I need to start inviting people who are very different from me into my life, not at a one-time event, but as intimate friends. And so thankfully, the universe heard that call, and I started meeting. I made a friend who was gay and out in the community, and he valued storytelling like I valued storytelling. And we started putting on these events together where we would share our personal experiences based on the theme. And as he was inviting his gay friends and I was inviting my straight friends, and we had this cute little integrated community, I was hearing stories and I was learning vocabulary words that I'd never heard before, because sometimes they would open up and share their coming out stories, or they would share what they've learned about identity, or they would share what they've learned about love. And I learned from those gatherings, difference is what's normal. That's what's normal. All of these differences that I'm seeing also sometimes resonated with me that I would be hearing. And I'm super grateful for those experiences. And because of, again, like Stephanie, because I had my own journey of opening up to this community, eventually I recognized I'm part of the LGBTQ community as well, but I didn't realize that till I was 25. That came much later. But I am super grateful for what they have taught me before and during this journey that they continue to walk with me. So I'll continue to share what makes Encircle so unique and different. Oh, I also do want to share, I don't want to do the thing where I save questions for the end. I need it to kind of be back and forth. So if you do have a question, let me know, raise your hand. Is that okay? Can we do that? Okay?
I'll run this around.
Perfect. So does anyone have any questions so far on things that I've covered? Yes. The center in Provo is located right just south of the Provo City Center Temple. It's this blue house. So the address is 91 West, 200 South. Yep, thanks for asking. Perfect. Okay, any other questions? Awesome. So what makes Encircle so different is that we utilize a neutral approach, the no sides only love. We're not affiliated with any political party. We're not affiliated with any religious organization. We are neutral. It's about love. It's about the relationships. And we focus on the whole family. We also build physical homes and spaces, and we embrace community conversations. It's been really cool to see all the various people that have come through our doors for a tour, or to our parent night, or to our community brunches and things that we do. And I'm so grateful. And these are the ways in which we go about our mission, which is, again, to bring the family and community together to enable LGBTQ plus youth to thrive. How do we do that? Well, we focus on these 4 outcomes. We focus on our guests and their loved ones having a positive emotional experience, strengthening their social connections, building emotional skills, and having a space for authenticity. Why each of those things? Because this leads to mental wellness, right? This leads to positive mental health. And we offer these by offering drop-in hours. So that's a space where you can just come. Our youth can come and do homework. They can come eat some cookies. They can play some instruments. They can use our art supplies and just be who they are. That's part of the authenticity part. And we also offer programming. Our programming starts in the evenings, and the programming depends on the day of the week. We have a beautiful calendar that you can see online. Mondays we have service night. Tuesdays, I believe, is our writing workshop, and Wednesdays we have art night. Thursdays is music night. Fridays is fun Fridays, so it's a cool wild card. Those programs are open to family and allies in the community to come and join with the LGBTQ community as well. And then we also have friendship circles. Those ones are a bit more specific to what your age group is and what your orientation is. And we have everything from a youth LGBTQ plus circle, we have an adult queer people of color friendship circle, we have an asexual and aromantic friendship circle, we have a parent circle, we have Lunch with Lisa, which is amazing because it's a free opportunity for parents to talk to one another about their experiences with their children in the presence of someone who is a licensed therapist. So, yes, we have a question.
I'm just curious, like when you talk about youth, what age groups are you talking about?
Thank you for asking that. So it's typically ages high school children, so ages like 12 to 17 or 18 if they're in high school. But we do have college night, or we do have some of our circles that are 18 plus. So yeah, it's tailored. Thank you for asking. Any other questions? Yes.
Do you have any services like specifically like, so we work for Head Start.
Awesome.
We have like parents, preschool children, but like, do you have services like specifically like for parents or like, you know, for adults? Like,
Absolutely.
not high school?
Yes, totally. So we have the parent circle that I mentioned, Lunch with Lisa. And that's those programs. A lot of our programs that we offer, like our friendship circles or the parent circles, you can either come in person or join online. We still maintain both of those spaces. We also have programs like Connect. That's a speaker series that's more oriented towards adults and conversations. And we have community events, like I mentioned, like our community brunch and things. So yes, we have programming available for parents as well.
So that just made me think of a second question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any like information or like classes or anything that's geared towards like how parents can help like young, like preschool age children and older, like as you know, they're kind of like starting to ask questions about their identity, like
Yeah.
in like a very positive way?
Totally. I would still point them, and Anna, you let me know if you want to add to this. I would still point them to Lunch with Lisa to have those conversations. Would you add anything?
I'll also add Connect.
Mm-hmm.
That's from parent and allies. You can have conversations and ask questions there. We also have a parent night every month, like the last Saturday of the month, where we bring in specific speakers to talk to parents about different topics. We had Bill Bradshaw that talked about our transgender community. We are partnering up with Parents Empowered to have the substance abuse component. I mean, we bring in different speakers geared to parents every month.
Yeah.
Is there a cost associated with this or it's free?
It's free.
Awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. Everything that we offer is free except therapy, but it's still extremely affordable. So therapy is also a space that we offer both for people who are LGBTQ+, but also their parents or their partners or their siblings. It's a family therapy organization as well. And we take insurance, but if your insurance doesn't cover it, it's on a sliding scale based on your income. So it's extremely affordable, and the first consultation is free. So please check out encircletherapy.org. Our therapists are awesome. You can read about them. And the therapy is an affirming therapy, so the therapists affirm the identity or however the client shows up. And if that client changes, the therapist will go along with that. It's a space, again, for authenticity and safety. And you had a question.
Yeah, I had a question just about volunteering. We're super interested in volunteering. Do you guys accept volunteers?
Please come and volunteer. We love volunteers. Yes. On our website, there will be a volunteer tab, and you can fill out an application for that and get all set up with volunteer training. We also take interns as well, if anyone's looking for an internship. So, beautiful questions. Yes.
So I'm very straight, right? And
Okay.
I'm very religious, but I really want to be a part of this community. I'm not a parent. I'm not married or anything like that. Is there a place for me in Encircle, and would I be accepted amongst this community?
Thank you. Thank you so much for asking that. And that is something that I feel like a lot of people wonder about. I'm surprised how many times someone will like pass by the house and they were like, I didn't know if I could go in, or I didn't know if it was a space for me. So like, yes, please come and get a tour of the home and not just to see what it's like, but to feel what it's like. That's why I love people coming to the home. And also, yes, like we have many volunteers who are like still like active members of their church or religion, and they're coming to serve and volunteer. And we love having those volunteers. And then again, we have things like our community brunch, which is like nobody asks you if you're straight or gay. Like we're eating food and talking. So yes, there is space for you, and we would love to have you. And the last thing that we offer, our Encircle Library, that is a space where we have many PDFs, both online or we have print versions. We have an Encircle booth just out there with some of the printed materials. If you want to check those out, check out our booth. But we have pamphlets that cover what to do when a kid comes out. That is written by a family therapist for parents. We have what about gender, research on gender. We have research on can sexual orientation be changed. A lot of research that we've put on in our pamphlets. And then of course I would just add like our whole educational wing. Things like this presentation that you're a part of right now, we offer to the community in various spaces and ways if you just shoot me an email. So all of these again are geared towards our outcomes and our mission statement and wellness. This just kind of shows how it's working. We are meeting our objectives 92% of the time. 80% of our Encircle guests have been back at least 21 times. We have 50 guests per Encircle home each day, and then each month we have about 850 guests. So this shows that our emphasis on these outcomes isn't just because it makes us feel good, and it's not just because it sounds good, it's because it's working. This is going to go into a little bit of why it's working. So there is a myth about LGBTQ plus individuals, and that myth is that their identity is primarily about sex. Like that's the crisis, that's the focus, that's what it's all about. But in actuality, this LGBTQ plus identity is about belonging. So when I recognize that something about myself is fundamentally different from family, church, and social expectations, that creates a crisis of where do I belong? So addressing identity is an important way to stabilize aspects of belonging that directly affect mental and physical health. This is part of safety. Like if I don't feel like I belong, I'm not going to feel safe. I'm going to hide. I'm going to have some fear, and that will affect my mental and physical health. Any questions? Okay. So this goes into a little bit of why we do what we do. And I would honestly say that our keynote speaker, Dr. Mark Rappaport, covered a lot of this already, which is the severity of the suicidality that we can find among this population, the poor mental health. So I'm going to skip that one was shared. And I'm going to emphasize now how this affects the LGBTQ community. So lesbian, gay, and bisexual youth, they are 3 times more likely to report a lifetime suicide attempt than their heterosexual peers. More than 40% of lesbian, gay, and bisexual youth have seriously considered suicide, and about 29 have reported attempting suicide in the past 12 months. These are the kind of numbers that honestly kicked me into stepping into Encircle to volunteer personally. And I would honestly say we have these numbers. The research is hard though, because how many people are out? How many people are actually going to admit these things? So we can look at these numbers, but the sad thing is they might be too low. In a national study, 40% of transgender adults reported having made a suicide attempt, and 92% of these adults reported having attempted suicide before the age of 25. So again, similar numbers to what was shared, the ages of 10, 15 to 25, that's a super vulnerable time of life, a super vulnerable age, which is why we do what we do. And again, for me to just let this sink in, this sunk into me because again, I'm a teacher and I have a classroom, so I'm thinking of my classroom. And I'm thinking of what is lost when 40% of them are gone. That affects the entire culture of our home, our school, our community. So that's just not okay with me. So that brings me to another myth, though, about LGBTQ youth and their mental health. Over and over again, research has validated that there is nothing inherent to the sexual or gender minority brain or body that is predisposed to mental health issues. So that's a myth, is that we are predisposed to having mental health issues. It's not that. It's the reactions that people have to their identity that increase their risk for mental health. So LGBTQ plus humans are not broken. Our reaction to them is what's broken. And I took that quote from one of our therapists. So, yes, I'm trying to figure out what to highlight here. This just reemphasizes that, again, it's the unwelcoming or hostile environments or attitudes towards the LGBTQ identity that contributes to negative health outcomes. So these experiences of feeling isolated or depressed or being lonely, that's going to lead anyone to negative health outcomes, right? Regardless of your sexuality or orientation, these things are what contribute to that. But this community are at a higher risk to experiencing these things because their identity is so rejected. This is a number that shows that generally our research has shown that someone knows that they're LGBTQ plus or that they're different or somewhere on the spectrum by the time they're 12 years old, if not before. However, generally they stay in the closet for about 10 years if they don't feel safe, right? That's 10 years where they are hearing comments either at the dinner table or in their Sunday school or at school in a classroom. They're hearing comments, maybe passing comments about this LGBTQ person or their identity, and maybe these comments don't make them feel safe, and so they go deeper and deeper into themselves, deeper and deeper into feeling isolated or alone and contributing to their fear and not feeling safe. So really, in totality, the mental health of this community is affected by rejection. And the Family Acceptance Project is an amazing website. Please go check them out if you're looking for some research. They also have some materials that really detail what are rejecting behaviors and how this affects the community. Young LGBTQ plus people who are highly rejected by their families are 8 times more likely to attempt a suicide than those from families that engage in few or no rejecting behaviors. LGBTQ plus people who experience high levels of family rejection are also more than 3 times likely to use illegal drugs and contract a sexually transmitted disease. So I want to explain what some of these rejecting behaviors are, and this again is from the Family Acceptance Project. So these are behaviors like verbal harassment or name calling because of your child's LGBTQ identity, excluding the LGBTQ youth from family or family activities, blocking access to LGBTQ plus friends, events, or resources, blaming the child when they're discriminated against because of their LGBTQ identity, pressuring a child to be more or less masculine or feminine, telling a child that they will shame the family by how they look or act, or making the child keep their LGBTQ identity a secret and not letting them talk about it. All of these are interpreted by their experience as being rejected for who they are. And so on the flip side, these are behaviors that promote well-being, that will contribute to mental wellness. Talking with your child about their LGBTQ plus identity, expressing affection when you learn about it, supporting the child's LGBTQ identity, even though it might make you feel uncomfortable, supporting the child's identity and advocating when they're mistreated, advocating for them, and requiring others to respect their identity, and also bringing your LGBTQ child to organizations or events. Talking with your clergy or faith community to help support LGBTQ plus people. Connecting your child with an LGBTQ adult role model to show them options for the future. Welcoming your child's LGBTQ friends and partners to your home. Supporting your child's gender expression. and overall believing that your child can have a happy future as an LGBTQ adult. So, again, that's from the Family Acceptance Project. They have PDFs and beautiful research to share. So again, these are just visuals to, again, emphasize things that I've already covered about the amount of stressors and vulnerability is what increases the risk for poor mental health for anyone. So now I'm going to go into some of the diversity that can be found in this community and how I came to realize that difference is what's normal. So there is some terminology here. Lesbian would be someone who's attracted to women. Gay would be someone who's attracted to men. Someone who is bisexual is someone who is attracted to both men and women. Someone who is pansexual is someone who is attracted to someone regardless of their gender. So they could be non-binary, they could be transgender. It's not what they're attracted to, essentially. Someone who is transgender is someone who was assigned a certain sex at birth, but that's not what their gender identity is. And queer is a term that is an umbrella term for anyone that applies to any of these. And I do know that based on the location or the time, like that word has in the past maybe even been a slur. So generally what I do is I don't use that term to describe someone unless I hear them describe themselves as queer first, and then I know it's safe. And then we also have questioning, and that's someone who's not sure, but they're figuring it out and they're on a journey. And then someone who is intersex is someone who was born with a mixture of traditionally labeled male and female characteristics, internally or externally. So it could be their chromosomes, it could be gonads, it could be a combination of various things. And then someone who is asexual is someone who either doesn't often experience sexual attraction or it doesn't play a major role in their relationships. And that also is a spectrum that you can explore and have fun with. And then, that's what the plus is for, is that there are way more than just these, and even each of these have spectrums, and how someone defines their experience as one of these identities could be different from another, and that's cool. So this is, if you wanted to kind of more clearly understand the delineation, sexuality and orientation is how I'm attracted or who I love, and then gender is my identity, and then queer, questioning, those are either gender or sexuality, just depends. So, questions here? Yes?
Is non-binary the same as asexual?
No, it is not. Thank you for asking. Totally. So someone who is non-binary, that's about their gender identity. So they may not really identify with either being male or female. That has nothing to do with who they're attracted to. That's who they are inside. Someone who is asexual, that's about how they're attracted to other people. So someone could be non-binary, but still asexual, like they could be non-binary and asexual, but that's not the same thing, if that makes sense. They could be non-binary and bisexual. They could be non-binary and something else. So, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, right on. So, this is the spectrum. Again, just kind of more visuals to share how fluid a lot of these things can be if you're a visual person. So biological sex, what the doctor assigned to you at birth, you could be male, you could be female, but then there's a spectrum in between. Someone could be intersex or transgender. Gender identity, that's the next one. That's where transgender identity comes in. That's how you feel inside. So you could be a man, or F to M is an acronym you might find. That's someone who was assigned female at birth, but they're transitioning to male. You could be a woman, or M to F, someone who is assigned male at birth, but transitioning to being female. And then in the middle, there's non-binary that I covered before, being genderqueer or gender fluid, agender. And then sexual orientation, again, who you like and how you're attracted. So now this next graph, okay. This one really is going to get into how diverse we can all be, and it's one of my favorites. I love it. So this is the attraction and aversion assessment. So from top to bottom, if we're going vertically, we have attraction on the top half of the graph. We have aversion on the bottom half of the graph. And then this graph has different quadrants, opposite sex on the left, same sex on the right. I wish we should probably edit this and have a non-binary section in the middle, but I like to even eliminate those and just maybe even write a name. If I'm trying to figure out how I'm attracted to someone, I can just go ahead and write like their name and then like look more deeply at how I'm attracted to them, because it could be different based on different people, right? And then the different lines that you see going from left to right are different kinds of attraction. So there's going from the middle and outward. Actually, can you see my? No, you can't see my mouse. Okay, so we have aesthetic attraction. Aesthetic attraction is visual. And a metaphor I like to use for this is if you're in a museum and you're going with a friend, there might be art pieces that call to you and draw you in, but to your friend, they might be drawn to something else. Aesthetically, that can happen with people too and how you're attracted to them. Then we have affectional attraction, and that's how I want to express my affection towards you. Do I want to write you a letter? Do I want to hold your hand? Do I want to snuggle? How do I'm drawn to expressing some affection towards you or not. And then there's romantic attraction, which is I want to be in a romantic relationship with you. I want to be partnered with you. And then we have erotic attraction, which is sexual. And before I'd seen this graph, like I was only taught to like that everything was sexual. I wasn't taught to differentiate and celebrate the diversity that can be found in attraction. So I was really grateful to find this. And then you can basically have multiple dots along each of these lines. So I'm simultaneously going to have maybe a dot that's at 100% somewhere, and maybe it's at a negative 100 somewhere else. Maybe it's in the middle somewhere else based on who I'm attracted to. And then maybe that'll change after I've known that person for 3 months, or maybe that'll change as I get to know myself better. And that's okay. Difference is what's normal. Okay. Did my explanation make sense? I wish I had a whiteboard. I wish I was in my classroom. But anyways, cool. And then this graph, again, continues to share diversity about how gender expression can overlap. We see this shape in so many ways in both like science and math and in nature, and it's just emphasizing that as far as how I present myself, my expression, there are some people, like the majority, express themselves like pretty clear-cut male, some express themselves pretty clear-cut female, but then there's spectrums in between, some who are either on the ends or in the middle, and that's, again, what's normal. That's kind of what that's sharing. So now on to inclusion, and how is it that you can create a space that houses all of these differences and that is safe for all of these different people, and what does that inclusion look like? And at Encircle, these are some ideas that we like to avoid. We like to just even change the language and hopefully change our language so that it's more inclusive. Looking at some of these phrases, like she's just going through a lesbian phase. I would never have guessed that you were gay. Bisexual people are just afraid to admit that they're gay. I don't agree with that lifestyle. Who's the girl or boy in the relationship? I've said some of these things, y'all. Sometimes even in the queer community, we'll say some of these things. But why do you think these are ideas we want to avoid? Any thoughts on that? Okay, what are you judging?
Like everything about the person. Like,
Okay,
it's just my opinion of why the person's acting that way.
got it.
You know what?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. A couple here. Yes?
Just dismissing their reality when you say things like that.
Okay. Dismissing their reality. Thank you.
It's almost invalidating,
Mhm.
like especially just looking at the bisexual one. That one is like, I see you and I may have accepted you if you were a little more on this spectrum, but you're right in the middle, so I don't know that I can accept you for that. So it's kind of taking their the validation that they deserve.
Mm-hmm.
Just being like, no, I don't really validate that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I had one here and then there, and we'll keep going. Yes.
So in my personal experience, for my mental illness, the one thing that helps the most is connection.
Mm-hmm.
Connection with somebody who, like, I believe is good for me, right? So when people that are so diverse, I've noticed, who are trying to connect with me, I'm very, very careful at what I think about and what I say.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm judgmental, but because I grew up in a culture where I'm predisposed and raised to think a certain way, you know? So I try really hard to connect with this person, and sometimes it just comes out and connection doesn't happen. But and that maybe that leads me to my question, like, how do we connect with this community, and how can they connect to us after being saved? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. My next slide talks about that. So thank you for asking it, and I'll address that in a second.
So I definitely agree that's invalidating, but I have a question as well. So like,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some discussion on like not saying things like, oh yeah, like major girl crush, or like, you know, this is my man crush. And specifically because it's like, I've read conflicting things on like whether saying things like that can be almost like homophobic,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, oh, well, you know, girl crush almost as if like, I don't know, like, and I hope you're just kind of understanding what I'm trying to understand, but it's like, I don't know, I mean, because with that scale the chart that you were showing earlier, it's like, okay, well, you know, shouldn't a girl be able to share something like, you know, oh, like I deeply admire, you know, and I love her, and like I want to emulate her, and, you know, do you think that it feels homophobic, or it might feel like somewhat homophobic or somewhat invalidating to, you know, to other people, like people in the LGBTQ community, to use phrasing like, oh, my girl crush, my man crush, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. And I'm sorry that I can't say that I have the answer for you. These are some phrases that like we clear cut kind of have identified don't feel validating and put us in a box. Essentially, that's what a lot of these phrases do, is put your identity in a box and in an expectation. But conversations where I feel like you would be like trying to connect and share about a girl crush or boy crush, I would honestly just check in with that person, because you might get a different response from different people and be like, I'm sorry, like, is that okay for me to say? Or like, how did that feel to you? It's okay to check in and ask, I think. And it's probably going to be different. But thanks for bringing that up. So yes, to answer your question of how can we connect when we do have these differences, these are some behaviors of love. Listening is an incredible behavior of love. And one of the most helpful questions you can ask is how? How can I help? How can I be the mom, dad, teacher, person that you need? How can I help create a safe space for you? Just going ahead and asking those questions can help build some connection. So we have to talk about Brené Brown. We have to shout out to Brené Brown. So Brené Brown said, people who have a strong sense of love and belonging believe they are worthy of love and belonging. The opposite of belonging is fitting in. Belonging is belonging to yourself first. It doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. You are imperfect. You are wired for struggle, but you are worthy of love and belonging. So for my last slide, and then I'll open it up to any other questions. Ooh, whoop, 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 whoop. There we go. So this is a summary. It might feel like we've talked about a lot of different topics, so I did want to have a summary page, essentially of things that the LGBTQ can teach us about the role of diversity and inclusion and how that affects our mental wellness. So the first thing is that identity is about belonging. Behaviors that are rejecting increase the risk of mental illness. Environments and practices that promote belonging improve wellness. And we can create this through deepening our relationships, by unboxing another's identity and their expression, and by shifting priorities and attention away from expectations to these wellness outcomes. Making sure they have a positive emotional experience, again, strengthening social connection, building their emotional skills, and allowing space for authenticity. Authenticity being, what do you know to be true about who you are? And how can we make a space that celebrates that difference and diversity? So, questions? That's all that I had. Yes?
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. So I have a couple girls, we had a youth camp a few weeks ago, and we had two girls come out, and they know I'm an ally, I'm very supportive, love them, and but they shared a lot of fear for their parents, right? And it was really cool. It's a small neighborhood group of girls, and anyway, so they felt loved in each other, and it was really great that they even felt safe opening up. But I know that one of the parents struggles with the idea of one of the girls going to Encircle, and I'm all about Encircle. If I can send everyone there, I will. And do you have a way to communicate with parents who are pretty resistant to that idea? Because they, I wanted to send them this whole slide deck, but getting them to read it or open up to it is hard. So do you have advice for that?
Yes.
I'm sure it's tricky.
I feel like it kind of depends on the parent. Like I would throw a couple of things. Like either I would say like, hey, do you want to go on a tour with me? Like maybe they want to go without their child for a minute, scope out the place for their child, maybe with you. Come get a tour. Let us show you the house. We have a YouTube channel, and we've posted some of our past Connect speakers. So if they want to like get a feel for some of our Connect speakers, things we've done in the past, they can explore YouTube. We are having a community brunch, like any of our community events, like that might be a little like getting their toes in the water. Coming to the parent circle if they're comfortable. And if they're not, again, we have our PDFs and publications online. I don't know the personality of the parent, but that's what I would respond to with whatever they're comfortable with. And maybe, they want to check it out before their kid's around so that they can have an authentic connection first.
I know, and I don't need you to necessarily do like a case study with me, but I know one parent is more receptive than the other. And do you have scenarios where one parent kind of just goes on their own and gets a tour and navigates those waters kind of that way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
We sure do. Thank you. We'll come to the back, and I know I don't have very much time. Ooh, I might only have time for just one more comment. Sorry. I'll talk.
So I just want to sing your guys' praise. You do so much good work in the community. I work in the public school system. I'm a social worker, and one of the things that I think about a lot is just creating kind of more of a system, like kind of a systems approach to like fostering acceptance and love. There's just working in the school, you hear a lot of stuff. I mean, when it comes to pride flags and a number of other things, there still is a lot of barriers there. And so I'm kind of curious what you guys do on more of a kind of systemic standpoint to help advocate and, for, a safer space for our LGBTQ community. So
Thank
I'm
you.
curious about that.
Yes, I'll share real quick that we love working with educators in schools. We've done presentations to counselors of schools or social workers. We've done presentations to some faculty. We really love connecting with, if there is a GSA or a Gay Straight Alliance at a school, we'll connect with them and support with the work that they do. But if not, sometimes there's like just a club like Hope Squad or clubs that are geared towards mental wellness or health and community care, but they might like find the LGBTQ community in that school. So yeah, we love to connect and support either whether that's presenting, whether that's doing an event with you. We can do parent events as well with schools. I know it is a tricky space, but I've seen it work and I've seen it happen. We have one district that has there's an LGBTQ plus advocacy committee, and it's in connection with their D&I department for that district as well. So I see more openings than closings as I look forward personally. So yeah, I'd love to connect more if that would be helpful for whatever school you're at. So, okay, friends. I think I have to close, but again, I want to thank you for your time here. I'll be here for the rest of the evening, and we do have an Encircle booth if you want to stop by and get more information.